Hello and welcome to Real Watchers Movie Club. My name is Garrett,
And I'm Kevin.
and we are your hosts. Movie Club is a show where we pick a movie every week and discuss it, just like a book club. On today's show, we are covering the classic comedy Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Our thoughts and more coming up on Movie Club. Released in 1964, Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, was directed by Stanley Kubrick and stars Peter Sellers, George C. Scott, and Sterling Hayden. After the insane General Jack D. Ripper initiates a nuclear strike on the Soviet Union, a war room full of politicians, generals, and a Russian diplomat all frantically try to stop the nuclear strike. It is currently ranked 72 on IMDb's Top 250 and currently has a 4.3 out of 5 on Letterboxd and is ranked number 129 on its Top 250. The film was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Actor for Peter Sellers, Best Director, and Best Picture. Before we dive into our thoughts, though, regarding Dr. Strangelove, we do want to issue a spoiler warning for the film, so we will be talking about everything that happens in this movie, and if you haven't seen it before, you should check it out, and then come back here, and then hear what we have to say. We'll be discussing everything that happens again, so this is your final warning. But stay tuned to the end of the show to find out what we're covering next week, because we're really excited to talk about it. Alrighty, Kevin, Dr. Strangelove was my pick this week. And to be quite frankly, I just really wanted to rewatch this movie. Dr. Strangelove is one of my favorite comedies of all time. It's up there with Monty Python and the Holy Grail and Blazing Saddles. I think this movie is not only incredibly funny, but it is also just really, really well made. Probably the most well-made comedy movie I think that I've seen in a very long time, if not the best looking comedy movie I've ever seen, period.
Okay. It wasn't a comedy to me.
Which is what I was so curious, because I was reading the review and I was like, I don't know if you got
I guess
everything that's going on.
Exactly, because it was more like an intense situation about bombing Russia, is what I got from it.
Which is really fascinating, so I can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah.
So maybe it's going to require a rewatch. Luckily, it's not a very long movie. It's about an hour and a half. So it's
and it was really good too. So I'd definitely rewatch it and then maybe have a different perspective on the movie coming in.
Yeah, and hopefully that's what you'll be able to do after we talk a little bit today, because we got quite a bit to talk about in terms of what's going on in the movie. So again, if you haven't seen any of this, make sure you go and watch it, because we don't want to spoil you on anything. But let's go ahead and dive into it. So one of the biggest things for me that makes this movie as good as it is the performances.
Oh yeah.
Peter Sellers playing 3 different characters. I don't know if you caught that it was 3 actors.
So familiar in all of them.
Yep. So he played the President of the United States. He played Dr. Strangelove and the RAF officer at the base with General Ripper.
Oh, the one that knew the code, but
the British officer. Yep.
Okay.
Not only is he fantastic, he's Oscar nominated. George C. Scott is incredible as I forget his general's name. He is the one that's in the war room. General Turgidson.
He goes crazy because
he's
so American.
Yes, and always incredibly horrified that the Russian is going to see the big board. Which is just so good. But then also Sterling Hayden as General Ripper is just truly mad, truly insane. Slim Pickens as the main pilot for the B-52 is fantastic as well. Everyone in this movie is at the top of their game. But I think and again, those performances are so key, because I think that you're getting, not only do you get 3 vastly different performances from Peter Sellers, but everyone in this movie is basically playing a man baby, and it's wonderful. Because if you want to think about it, that's what a lot of these people were back then. And we'll get to one of the big kind of themes for the movie, but I'll kind of go through individual character. I mean, the president is really a kind of a straight man in terms of like, he's not super emotional or anything. He has his moments, but like he's more kind of the voice of reason in so of a speak, like in so of a speak, in such a way. But has his funny moments. Literally every moment with him on the phone with the Russian president, it's just like hearing an old couple that's married talk.
With Dimitri.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me finish, Dimitri. Like, it's just,
let me get back to it. Just hold on. Just hold on.
Well, how do you think I feel about it? Like, it's so good. And and then you have the British officer, obviously, who, again, more of a straight man character for sure, but has his moments. And then Dr. Strangelove is just like the most absurd character, I think, in the movie. Like,
it's weird how we don't get him until maybe like 10 minutes into the movie, or not 10 minutes, 10 minutes.
Like with about 30 minutes left.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, it's Dr. Strangelove, but I haven't met this guy yet throughout this whole movie.
Yeah, I think the true title for the movie should be How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, or something like that, because I think Dr. Strangelove is a little bit of a weird kind of title for it, which is kind of funny because we'll get into that a little bit later, like I said, when it comes to the main idea, the way that I take away the film. But man, George C. Scott's General Turgidson is like every little thing, the fanatically chewing on gum, like the delivery of his lines, like the banter between him and the president when he's going over what Plan R is. It's like, well, the human object has clearly failed here. Like, it's like, yeah, like that's the one thing that could go wrong. And then his whole speech when he's like, is that B-52 going down? And he's like, well, it's a really amazing thing. Like, you should see it. Like, you can land it right in there. And like, he's pitch perfect. Like everyone in this movie, top of their level. Like, it's fantastic.
It's very enjoyable if you like dialogue, and actors really, I think they enjoyed doing this movie because you can see it in their performance as well. It's just, it's like you and me talking about it right now, I can see where the comedy is in it. But it was so, when I was watching, I was like, oh, this is serious. Like, but looking back at it, it's pretty comedic. It's really good.
There's even like the little things in the background that you don't see, right? And like on first viewing, the binder in front of George C. Scott on his desk says, what does it say? Targets in mega deaths. That's not a thing.
That's not a thing.
Like, and then the fact that everywhere on the military base, I forget the name of the base, but there's a couple of shots where like there's a bunch of military stuff going on, or like they're fighting outside, and there's a billboard that says "Peace is our profession," with them literally fighting in front of it.
Yeah,
like it's so on the nose, and it's just, man, it's fantastic. It's also, this movie looks fantastic
for like when it came out.
Specifically the shot. There's a shot when Sterling Hayden is addressing the British officer, and it's shot from like super low, and you're kind of looking up at him. Which, in a way, we're looking up at him like he's more powerful, but he is in turn looking up to the British. It's really just well done. It makes him seem super menacing. And so, like, again, it's absolutely gorgeous. There's a couple of moments where, like, I think, like the plane is very obviously just a miniature in front of a projection. But like it's the technology of the time.
It's the 60s. I mean, I put it on my Letterboxd too. I'm like, I get that it's this and this, but it's the 60s. We're used to like green screen, blue screen, purple screen nowadays. But it was good for the time. So that's what you have to think about when you come into it.
And in many ways, it points out like not only is the situation absurd, but like that is also just part of the absurdity as well. And so it just kind of works into the overall vibe of the movie. If I do have to give any kind of criticism for the movie, I would say that like the film is not long, but like I feel that the pacing can be a little bit off. I feel like there's a lot of just exterior shots of the plane, like we were talking about.
Yeah,
that probably could have been cut down or cut. you
Or they
know,
could have done comedy with the plane, with the pilots and everything. I mean, we do get a lot of it, like where he gets, here's 100 rubles, two big things of was it gum that they have for whatever fucking reason,
well,
but
those are survival rations they have. But like when he gets to the part, is like 2 pantyhose. Like,
mm-hmm.
yeah, man can have a fun day in Vegas with
I
this.
think it's
Like that's it's great. But like I think there's just a couple of points where like you could have cut a couple things out.
yeah.
And maybe you spent a little bit more time in the war room, because I think the war room is where everything that is so funny with this movie takes place. It's, like the most famous line of the entire movie is when the Russian diplomat shows up and is immediately attacked by George C. Scott, and the president comes over like, gentlemen, there's no fighting in the war room.
Yeah,
It's literally called the war room, but you're
War
saying
room.
that there's no fighting in it. It's just so good. But like, what else stood out to you? Like this, obviously, this is your first time watching the movie. Hadn't really heard of it before, I'm guessing. So, like, what else stood out to you?
I heard of it because I think you talked about it with Adrian, maybe on the
Maybe
podcast
at some point,
or some point, or on the live stream. But going into it, I thought I was going to get more Doctor Strange. I'm going to call him. It's Strangelove, right?
Yes, Doctor Strangelove.
Okay. I was in the movie. I was writing down Love Strange the entire time. So I had to make sure I had it right. Doctor Strangelove was more part of the movie because, yes, his character is a little bit quirky and weird, but he could have put in his 2 cents a little bit more. Like when, because he's from Germany, right? Or Russia?
Dr. Strangelove is originally a Nazi scientist, which is
Yeah.
like he's fighting the urge to do, the salute. He's like calling the president Mein Führer and then correcting himself. Like, yeah, it's great.
But he could have stepped in a little bit when the Sergeant T, I forget how to say his name, Sergeant T, he's like, yeah, so this is a great plane, and him be like, yeah, but we shot like 3 of them down. And then just in the background or something could have made it a little bit more funny that he's there always, no matter if he's not on screen. But it was just strange how it's called Doctor Strangelove and he just shows up at like the very tail end of the movie.
Yeah, which, I mean, we've already kind of talked about how it's a little bit odd for sure. But I do want to dive into really what I take away is the main kind of theme and the main, like, I don't want to say the main idea, because obviously the idea is to satirize the Cold War during the middle of the Cold War. It's literally making fun of the absurdity of the situation while it's happening. It was a very bold movie at the time. But I think that, like, a lot of people, it may go over their head. This movie is super sexual. And I do want to kind of talk about why.
Sexual.
So the entire intro to this movie, with the title credits and everything, is a plane being refueled in the sky.
Okay.
It's literally intercourse.
Oh.
The entire intro is all intercourse with a plane and a giant fueling rod. The only woman in this entire movie is in her underwear.
It's at the beginning.
And in the beginning, she is in her underwear too. The General Ripper, is obsessed with the fact that the Russians are taking away his sexual stamina. That's what he means about his fluids, and why he's so concerned about his fluids. The pilots are reading Playboy at the very beginning.
Yeah, I saw that.
The captain, the pilot literally rides a giant penis down to the destruction of the world. Okay. And the entire Cold War, if you think about it, is a bunch of men trying to compare dick sizes and waving their giant phalluses around. That being nuclear missiles. It's such a sexual movie, but it's not overt. Because again, you didn't pick up on it. I only really picked up on it this time around after like 6 times of watching this movie, because it is so subtle, right? Because like literally all war and like politics and like the Cold War, everything that like is primarily male like this is just dick waving and dick size comparison is all that it is. So
True.
like it's literally satirizing that and bringing that to the forefront. And also, let's not forget after the bomb drops with Slim Pickens on it, which is an iconic shot of any shot. The entire conversation in the war room has turned to, yeah, we're going to convert our mine shafts to be pleasure pits for the men will select to move on. Of course, all of the generals and politicians will be there, and it'll be 10 women to every man.
Yeah.
And it literally just turns into like, well, that sounds like a good idea. And then the world ends. Like,
yeah,
it's so overtly sexual without being overt. Like, it, like, well, and people are like, it's subtle. Exactly. Like, that's exactly what it is. Like, it's behind this kind of veneer of the Cold War and comedy, and it's just it's so smart. And you can see the look on your face when I'm going through all these examples. Yeah. It's literally what it is.
It's literally in front of my face, but after watching it, I'm like, I didn't pay any attention to it. And then you bring it up, it's like, oh shit, yeah, you're right. which is great.
To be fair, like that took me 5-6 viewings, and like I did watch a couple of videos that were kind of explaining a little bit more about the film, because it's a film I love and I kind of want to make sure that I do understand everything about it. And so like it was just like, oh, like it just totally clicked. And like again, like we've talked about iconic shots, like the shot of General Ripper looking up. The entire war room is incredible. That production design of that set is so iconic. Great. Literally been used in several other films, kind of as either an homage or kind of a tribute to it. But also like the shots with the pieces are profession, with the soldiers fighting in front of it. Slim Pickens riding the bomb down. Like it you can see how many other films have either paid tribute to this or have used it as an inspiration in their kind of visual kind of style. And it's really it's a special movie. I love this movie. I'm just gonna keep gonna keep singing its praises. But yeah, it's oh man, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna get another rewatch because of what we've been talking about too. Because I'm gonna look for those little things now and just and think of it as a comedy, and then I'll pick up on a lot of things that I didn't the first time.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. Like this is, there's a lot of different kinds of comedy. You've obviously got slapstick, you've got absurdist humor. There's a little bit of the absurd in this movie, but it's a satire. Like it's not in satire is a little bit more. I don't want to say it's like, I don't want to sound like I'm on a high horse. It is a little bit more complex of a kind of comedy. It is literally taking a situation and pointing out the absurdities in it. Not like it's not like Scary Movie or Airplane where it's purposefully absurd of a normal situation. I guess maybe that's not like academic definitions of those two subgenres. You really have to pay attention to the movie to understand the comedy. For sure. And I think that, we do get some movies like this today. Specifically, I need to look up the name of the director. He put out films The Death of Stalin and In the Loop. I gotta look here. Armando Iannucci. He has made films that are very similar. Also, Veep was the series that he did. In the Loop was kind of a satire of the American entry into the Middle East, like right after the World Trade Center and 9/11 and all that. And then The Death of Stalin is obviously a satire of Russia after Stalin died. So, like, those are similar movies to this. I think this one deals with a much more apocalyptic scenario for sure. And I think that it also does take a little bit more of like, because I think those movies like Death of Stalin and Loop find the absurdities in little situations, right? And it has funny lines that way. This has that overarching idea that of not just of the Cold War, but of war and politics itself. And in a time period where this is so like this is super fresh in people's minds. It's going on literally, like, I mean, obviously we never hit this point. I believe this came out a year after the Bay of Pigs. Let me see here, 1961, so 3 years afterward. And then I think the Cuban Missile Crisis was also 1962, so 2 years before. So I think that by taking that absurd, like finding the absurd and really going with it was a really smart decision, because originally this was supposed to be a thriller, which is kind of how you picked up on it the first time.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be like a pure thriller, no comedy. It's based on a book. I forget what the book is called. I'll have to look it up here. But it was more serious. And then Stanley Kubrick, who, I mean, is easily one of the best, directors of all time. It's based on Red Alert, is the name of the book.
Okay.
Which is a novel about like the start of World War III, what the first 2 hours of World War III would look like. So
okay.
But this movie, he kind of, as he was writing it, felt that it lended itself to being more of an exploration of the satirical side of it, and I think it's much the better for doing that.
Yeah, I do think so, because like you said, I came into this movie thinking it's serious when it's not supposed to be serious. There's serious moments in it, but it's all the comedy is behind the seriousness of it.
Yes. And that's where, as a satire, it thrives, because it's played so seriously. No, I mean, not always. I mean, George C. Scott literally falls over himself at one point while trying to show off the big board. Like, it's not always completely, but it is played serious enough. It's not like Airplane. It's not like Naked Gun. It's not like Scary Movie. It's not like those that are not taken seriously at all. Like this, it finds what's funny in the serious. And that's what's so great about it.
I do love how he was always talking about the big board. The big board. Look at the big board. It's like, okay, we get it. It's a big board. You're gonna let him? You're gonna let a commie come in here and look at our big board?
And then literally plants the camera on the Russian guy.
Oh yeah.
And then the Russian guy already has one on him anyway. Again, the stupidity of the spying game at that point, like it's so good, and like it's one of those movies, like it may require 2 viewings, like you're saying, but man, you got to give it the time, you got to give it the effort, because it is a really it's not, because I think it's kind of similar to what you're saying. It's not a laugh out loud movie, unless there are certain moments that are, for sure.
Yeah,
but it's more like, oh shit, that's funny. But in a very smart way. And so I think that like maybe that's why it wasn't picked up a lot the first time. Well, though I don't know how you were sitting there yeah, I guess the Russians are influencing our fluids.
Yeah, all of that, I just thought he was a crazy man. So
I mean, he is.
Anything crazy come out of him, I didn't really take too seriously. So I was just like, oh, he's just, he's one of those people, like psychotic people that have power and is trying to use it. And I'm like, okay, he's just not making any sense because he's psycho. And now looking back at it, it's like, okay, but why was he on this bodily? Our body is made up of 70% of water and stuff. And it's like, why do you need to bring that up?
The man is literally angry because he is not able to perform sexually anymore, and is blaming it on a Russian secret conspiracy, and that's why he launches the attack on Russia.
But the other thing is too,
because it's everyone's fault except your own that you can't perform anymore, is basically what he's doing.
And you talked about at the beginning, it's like, yeah, we gave all the plans to Plan R. What's Plan R? He's the president, he doesn't know a plan, and he gave It's like I thought I only had the one that could tell everybody to nuke everybody. He
And
goes,
it's like,
well,
yes, that's right, but like,
yeah, well,
which I believe, if I remember correctly, Turgidson says that is a plan that president okayed. So
yeah,
again, it just
he
plays into the
signed
idea that
off on it.
presidents don't know what they're signing in or whatever.
Hmm.
It's kind of, really, again, it's a really bold movie for its time, and you
Yeah.
gotta love it. All right, Kevin. So it was my pick this week, which means it's going to be your turn to share your thoughts first.
Um, going into this as a serious movie, it's still a good movie. It really, it like in my review, it is going to be a serious review. It's not going to be like a comedy review. But when I go back, I'm going to do it as a comedy review because you and I just sitting here talking. It is hilarious, actually, about all the little things that they do in this movie that it went right over my head. And that's the great part about this movie is you're gonna watch it once and be like, okay, this wasn't really my thing. You're gonna watch it again and you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, how did I not pick up on all of the things that we talked about in this video today?
Yeah.
And after that, I mean, I still gave it a pretty good score, 88 out of 100, but I think it's gonna go up after I rewatch it and kind of laugh.
It's almost one of those ones like I kind of want to rewatch it with you just because like
Oh,
to be able to find the things together. But
hmm.
yeah, for me, I've already said it's one of my favorite comedy movies of all time. It is up there with some of my favorites. Like it is it's like top five. And I think that it is a stark example of like a comedy movie is not just the writing and the jokes, it is the performances. And this movie
Hmm.
is so successful because of those performances. Because of that, I gave the film a 98 out of 100. Only some minor gripes, which equates to a 4.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd for me. And so 88 and 98 are your scores. So the question now falls to you. What do you think of Doctor Strangelove? I'm not going to say the entire title again. Go ahead and leave your comments down in the comment section down below. But remember to be respectful of one another because, I mean, we just talked about what war really is. And you don't really want that. Next week, we'll be covering the supernatural thriller, The Sixth Sense. So make sure to watch it before next week so you aren't spoiled, even though that spoiler just gets spoiled for everyone nowadays. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to us here on Real Watchers and everywhere online at Real Watchers, REEL Watchers, kind of every social media platform out there. And make sure that you're subscribed so you can also see our live stream that goes live every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, as well as our Movie Club episodes, which go live every Friday morning. Again, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep your eyes on the screen.